Let me tell you something that's going to make a lot of spiritual teachers very uncomfortable. Those repeating numbers you've been seeing. 111, 222, 333, 444. They're calling them angel numbers, and that's not exactly wrong, but it's dangerously incomplete. Because what's actually happening is far more powerful and far more personal than angels sending you messages. I know what you've been told. You see 111, and you search online, angels are near, new beginnings, manifestation portal. You see 222, balance, trust the process, divine timing. You see 333, ascended masters are with you, spiritual alignment, and you feel comforted, validated, guided by higher beings watching over you. But here's what they don't tell you. That framework keeps you in receiver mode, passive, waiting for external forces to guide you, to validate you, to tell you what the numbers mean. And in doing so, you give away the most powerful thing you have, your ability to create your own reality. Let me validate something first. You're not crazy. Those numbers are significant. They are real. They are meaningful, but not for the reasons you've been told, not because angels are sending messages, but because you are creating synchronicity through observation, through frequency, through the quantum mechanics of consciousness that we've been exploring. In this series, you've been seeing these numbers for weeks, maybe months, maybe years. Clock says 1111, receipt total 2222, license plate 333, phone notification 444, every single day, multiple times. And at first, you dismissed it. Coincidence, random, meaningless. But it kept happening until you couldn't ignore it anymore. So you searched. What does 1111 mean? And you found thousands of articles, videos, posts, all saying the same thing. Angels, guides, universe, sending you signs. Stay positive. You're on the right path. Trust the journey. And it felt good, comforting, like someone was watching over you, confirming you're not alone. But then something shifted. The more you read, the more generic it felt. The interpretations could apply to anyone, to anything, to any situation. Stay positive. Trust the process. New beginnings. Divine timing. These aren't specific. They're vague, intentionally vague. So they always seem right, no matter what's happening in your life. And you started wondering if these numbers really mean what they say they mean. If angels really are sending messages, why are the messages so generic, so non-specific, so applicable to everyone and everything? That's when doubt crept in. Maybe I'm just seeing patterns that aren't there. Maybe I'm making this up. Maybe I'm crazy. You're not crazy, but you're also not receiving Angel messages. You're doing something far more powerful. You're creating quantum synchronicities through conscious observation. You're collapsing timeline markers into your experience. You're broadcasting a frequency that the quantum field responds to by showing you patterns that confirm you're aligned with your highest timeline. These aren't messages from external beings. These are confirmations from your own consciousness, from the quantum field you're interfacing with, from the reality you're actively creating. And once you understand the actual mechanism, you can stop outsourcing your interpretation to generic angel number websites and start decoding your personal symbolic language that your subconscious is using to communicate with your conscious mind. If you're still watching, you're ready to understand the truth about repeating numbers, not the comfortable narrative that keeps you passive, but the empowering truth that makes you the creator of your own synchronicity. Let's begin. Let's start with why the angel numbers narrative exists. I'm not saying angels aren't real. I'm not saying guides don't exist. I'm saying that framework was created to make sense of a phenomenon that mainstream science couldn't explain, and New Age spirituality needed to interpret in a way that fit their worldview. Before the internet, before the angel number industry, people saw repeating numbers and called them coincidences, synchronicities, meaningful patterns. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, spent decades studying synchronicity. He defined it as meaningful coincidences that couldn't be explained by causality, events connected, not by cause and effect, but by meaning, by pattern, by underlying order. Jung didn't attribute this to angels. He attributed it to the collective unconscious, to archetypes, to the psyche's ability to perceive patterns that connect internal experience with external events. He understood that consciousness and reality weren't separate, that observation created meaning, that pattern recognition was a function of awareness, not divine intervention. But then the New Age movement took synchronicity and spiritualized it, made it about external beings sending messages, angels, guides, ascended masters, the universe talking to you. And this framework spread because it's comforting, because it makes you feel special, chosen, guided, protected by higher forces. And there's nothing wrong with that framework if it empowers you, if it helps you trust yourself, if it opens you to perception beyond material reality. But for most people, it doesn't empower, it disempowers, because it puts the power outside of you. It makes you the receiver, not the creator, the interpreter, not the author of your own reality. Now let's talk about what's actually happening when you see repeating numbers. Three things are occurring simultaneously. First, your reticular activating system is filtering reality to show you what you've programmed it to notice. Second, your consciousness is creating synchronicity through observation and quantum collapse. Third, your subconscious is using Numbers as symbolic language to communicate. With your conscious mind, let's break down each one. The RAS, we talked about this in day one. It's the part of your brain that filters 11 million bits of sensory information every second, down to the 40 bits your conscious mind can process, and it decides what gets through based on what you've told it is important. Remember the red car example. Same thing happens with numbers. The moment you learn that 1111 is significant, your RAS starts filtering for it. Suddenly you see it everywhere, not because it's appearing more frequently, but because you're noticing it for the first time. It was always there. Your RAS was just deleting it from your conscious awareness until you programmed it to notice. This is called the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, or frequency illusion. You learn a new word. Suddenly you see it everywhere. You hear about a rare disease. Suddenly everyone seems to have it. You notice a specific car model. Suddenly, every third car is that model. Your brain isn't creating these occurrences. It's just finally noticing what was always there. So part of the repeating numbers phenomenon is simply pattern recognition. Your brain looking for what you've told it matters, but that's not the whole story, because if it were just RAS, everyone would see the same numbers with the same frequency, but they don't. Some people see 1111 constantly, others never see it, but see 555 all the time. This is where quantum mechanics comes in. Remember from day one, observation collapses quantum possibilities into experience. You're not just noticing numbers that were always there. You're collapsing specific numbers into your experience through your frequency, through your observation, through your electromagnetic field, broadcasting a signal that the quantum field responds to. Here's how it works. Every number has a frequency, literally a vibrational signature. One vibrates at a certain frequency associated with new beginnings, initiation, singularity. Two vibrates at the frequency of duality, balance, partnership. Three carries the frequency of trinity, creativity, expression. Four resonates with foundation, structure, stability. These aren't arbitrary. These are mathematical properties of numbers themselves. Pythagoras, the ancient Greek mathematician, built an entire philosophy around this. He believed numbers were the language of the universe, that everything could be reduced to numerical relationships, to frequency, to vibration, to pattern. And modern physics proves him right. Everything is vibration. Every particle, every atom, every molecule vibrates at specific frequencies. Your thoughts are electromagnetic waves. Your emotions create coherent or incoherent frequencies. Your body broadcasts an electromagnetic signature into the field around you, and when your frequency matches the frequency of a specific number, you collapse that number into your experience, not through magic, through quantum mechanics, through resonance, through the observer effect. You're literally creating synchronicity by matching frequency with the numerical patterns that correspond to your current state. If you're in a frequency of new beginnings, of initiation, of starting fresh, you'll see 111, because your electromagnetic field is resonating at that frequency, and the quantum field responds by collapsing that pattern into your observable reality. If you're in a frequency of seeking balance, of partnership, of duality, you'll see 222, because that's what you're broadcasting. This is why the numbers change over time. You used to see 333 constantly. Now you see 444, not because different angels are messaging you, but because your frequency shifted. You moved from creative expression phase into building foundation phase, and the numbers you collapse into experience reflect that frequency change. Now let's talk about personal symbolism versus universal meaning. This is where the angel number industry gets it wrong. They give you generic interpretations that supposedly apply to everyone. 111 means new beginnings for everyone. 222 means balance for everyone. 333 means spiritual alignment for everyone, but that's not how consciousness works. Your subconscious doesn't speak in universal language. It speaks in your language, using your memories, your associations, your personal symbolic dictionary built over your entire lifetime of experience. A snake means transformation to someone who learned that interpretation, but to someone who was bitten by a snake as a child. Snake means danger, trauma, threat. Same with numbers. The meaning isn't universal, it's personal. Yes, there are archetypal frequencies associated with each number, but how those frequencies express in your life is unique to you, to your history, to your associations, to what numbers mean in your personal experience. Maybe 111 appears every time you're about to meet someone important in your life. That's your personal code for connection, for relationship, for significant people entering your timeline. Maybe 222 shows up before major decisions. That's your code for choice point, for timeline split, for needing to choose between two paths. Maybe 333 appears when you're aligned with creative flow, when you're in your zone, when you're expressing your truth. That's your code for alignment, for permission to create, for confirmation. You're in the right frequency for manifestation. These meanings are specific to you, not universal, not what some website tells you they mean. And here's the key: the more you pay attention to when specific numbers appear, the more you decode your personal symbolic language, the more you understand what your subconscious is trying to communicate to your conscious mind through numerical patterns. This brings us to the third mechanism, your subconscious using numbers as communication. Your subconscious processes 40 million bits of information per second. Your conscious mind processes 40. It's seeing patterns, making connections, accessing information you're not consciously aware of, and it needs a way to communicate that information to your conscious awareness. It can't use words because words are conscious mind territory. It can't use logic because logic is conscious processing, so it uses symbols, images, feelings, dreams, and synchronicities, patterns in external reality that your conscious mind can't ignore, that demand attention, that force you to notice something your subconscious already knows. Numbers are perfect for this because they're everywhere in modern life: clocks, receipts, license plates, phone numbers, addresses, timestamps. Your subconscious can easily direct your attention to a number at the exact moment you need to receive a message, a confirmation, A warning, a course correction, you're thinking about quitting. Your job, you look at the clock. 555. Your subconscious just confirmed change is needed. Major transformation is aligned with your highest timeline. You're doubting a relationship. You see 222 on a license plate. Your subconscious is saying, wait, balance is possible. Partnership can work. Give it time. You're about to make a decision based on fear. You see 444 on a receipt. Your subconscious is saying, build foundation first. Don't rush. Stability is the priority right now. These aren't angels sending messages. This is your consciousness communicating with itself, using the only language that can bridge subconscious and conscious. Awareness, symbolic, pattern, recognition. And the beauty of this is that it's perfectly designed for you. The numbers you see appear at exactly the right moments with exactly the right meaning for your specific situation, because your subconscious knows everything about you, your history, your fears, your desires, your timeline, your frequency. Now here's something. Nobody talks about what it means when the numbers stop appearing. You've been seeing 1111 for months. Every single day, multiple times, it became your confirmation, your sign, your connection to something bigger. And then, suddenly, nothing. Days go by. Weeks. No 1111. No repeating numbers at all. And you panic. Did I do something wrong? Did the angels leave? Did I fall off the path? Am I no longer aligned? But that's not what's happening. Remember, these numbers are frequency markers. They appear when you're in transition, when you're shifting, when you're moving between timelines, when confirmation is needed. When they stop appearing, it means you've stabilized, you've integrated the frequency you were moving into. You don't need confirmation anymore, because you've become what you were becoming. The timeline has collapsed. The identity has solidified. The frequency has become your baseline. You're not in transition anymore. You've arrived. Think of it like training wheels on a bicycle. When you're learning to ride, you need them. They provide stability, confirmation, support. But once you learn to balance, you don't need them anymore. You've integrated the skill. Same with repeating numbers. They appear when you're learning to navigate conscious creation, to trust your frequency, to recognize alignment. But once you've learned, once you've integrated, once you can feel alignment without external confirmation, the numbers fade. Not because you're no longer aligned, but because you no longer need external validation of what you already know internally. This is evolution. This is integration. This is mastery, and sometimes they return when you're ready for the next level, the next upgrade, the next timeline shift. You'll start seeing new numbers, new patterns, new codes that correspond to the new frequency you're moving into. It's cyclical. It's evolutionary. It's your consciousness expanding in stages as you're ready to receive, to integrate, to embody higher levels. Let's connect this to what we've already covered in day one. We talked about how you found that video about quantum consciousness. That wasn't random. Your frequency was ready to receive that information, and the repeating numbers you were seeing were confirmation that your consciousness was elevating, that you were being selected for activation. In day 2, we talked about 3 a.m., wake-ups, pineal gland, activation, downloads from higher consciousness, and the repeating numbers are connected to that too. Their confirmation that the downloads are real, that the information you're receiving is accurate, that you're on the right timeline. The numbers you see after 3 a.m. activations are particularly significant. You wake at 3 a.m. with a download about a decision you need to make. Next morning, you see 111 on the clock, right as you're thinking about that decision. That's confirmation. The download was accurate. The guidance was real. The timeline you're collapsing into is the one you received information about at 3 a.m. This is how your consciousness creates coherence between downloads, synchronicities, and timeline markers. Everything is connected. The 3 a.m. activations, the repeating numbers, the synchronicities, the frequency elevation, they're all part of the same process. Your consciousness expanding, your frequency elevating, your timeline shifting, and reality responding to your new frequency. The angel number narrative breaks this connection. It makes the numbers separate from you, external messages from external beings. But the truth is they're internal confirmations from your own consciousness, from the quantum field you're interfacing with, from the timeline you're actively creating through observation, through frequency, through embodiment. Now let's talk about Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance theory. He proposed that there's a field of information that connects all consciousness, all living systems, and that this field contains patterns, habits, memories that aren't stored in individual brains but in the field itself. When enough people assign meaning to a pattern, that meaning becomes part of the morphic field. So when millions of people believe that 111 means new beginnings, that belief creates a resonance in the field. And when you see 111, you're not just accessing your personal symbolism, you're also tapping into the collective agreement about what that number represents. This is why universal meanings aren't completely wrong, they're just incomplete. There is a collective resonance around certain numbers built over centuries by Pythagorean philosophy, by numerology traditions, by modern angel number culture. That resonance exists in the field, and you can tap into it, but your personal resonance is stronger, more specific, more relevant to your individual timeline. So the key is learning to distinguish between collective meaning and personal meaning, between what everyone says a number means and what it actually means for you in your life at this moment. This is the empowerment I'm offering you, not rejection of angel numbers, but evolution beyond them, not dismissal of universal meanings, but integration with personal symbolism. You're not receiving messages, you're creating synchronicity. You're not being guided by external forces, you're being guided by your own higher consciousness, using the quantum field to communicate through patterns you can recognize. Now let's talk about the practical protocol. How do you actually work. With repeating numbers, once you understand the mechanism, how do you decode your personal symbolic language? How do you stop outsourcing interpretation to websites and start trusting your own inner knowing? First protocol: stop immediately searching. What does this number mean? The moment you see a repeating number, and your first instinct is to Google angel number, meaning you're giving your power away. You're asking someone else to tell you what your consciousness is communicating to you, and that person doesn't know your life, your history, your frequency, your timeline. Instead, the moment you see a repeating number, stop, pause, notice. What were you just thinking about? What were you just feeling? What situation were you just considering? What decision were you about to make? The context is the key. The number appeared in that specific moment for that specific reason, related to that specific thought or feeling or situation. Write it down immediately. Number, context, feeling, situation, time, location, everything. Because your conscious mind will forget, will rationalize, will dismiss, but your journal won't. And over time, when you review your entries, patterns will emerge. You'll see that 333 always appears. When you're in creative flow, that 444 always shows up before major stability decisions. This is how you decode your personal language, not by reading what others say numbers mean, but by tracking when they appear for you. What's happening in your life when they show up? What themes connect the appearances? This is empirical. This is personal. This is your truth, not someone else's interpretation. Second protocol: ask yourself, what does this number feel like to me? Not what does it mean? What does it feel like? Because your subconscious communicates through feeling, through sensation, through intuitive knowing, not through logical analysis. When you see 555, what's the feeling that arises immediately before thought, before logic, before interpretation? For some people, 555 feels like excitement, like change is coming, like freedom is near. For others, it feels like anxiety, like instability, like too much is shifting too fast. Neither is right or wrong. Both are valid because they are personal to the individual experiencing the synchronicity. Your feeling response is the truth for you. This is why generic meanings fail. They can't account for personal, emotional association. They assume everyone feels the same way about numbers, about change, about balance, about new beginnings, but we don't. Our subconscious has unique associations based on our unique life experience, and those associations determine what numbers mean for us. So practice feeling into the number before you think about it, before you analyze, before you search. What does the internet say? Just feel what arises in your body, in your gut, in your heart. That feeling is your subconscious communicating. Listen to it, trust it, honor it more than any website, any book, any authority outside yourself. Third protocol: notice the frequency shift that happens after you see the number. This is crucial. The number isn't just information, it's frequency transmission. The moment you see it and recognize it, your electromagnetic field shifts, your brain waves shift, your consciousness shifts into alignment with that numerical frequency. You see, 111. And suddenly, you feel clear, focused, ready to initiate. That's not because angels blessed you. That's because your consciousness tuned to the frequency of one, of singularity, of new beginnings, and your entire system responded by matching that frequency. This is entrainment. This is resonance. This is quantum mechanics at work. So pay attention to how you feel after seeing a number. Not just when you see it, but 5 minutes after, an hour after. Does your energy shift? Does your clarity increase? Does your decision become obvious? That's the number working, not as message, but as frequency. Transmission, tuning you to the timeline. You're collapsing into fourth protocol. Test your interpretations. This is where you move from belief to knowing. You've decided that 444 means for you foundation, stability, slow down, build carefully, great. Now test it. Next time you see 444, follow that. Guidance, build foundation. Don't rush. See what happens if following that interpretation leads to positive outcomes, to aligned results, to things working out. That confirms your interpretation is correct for you. If it doesn't, if things get worse or nothing changes, that tells you your interpretation needs refinement, needs adjustment, needs deeper exploration of what 444 actually means. In your personal symbolic dictionary, this is empirical testing. This is how science works. Hypothesis, test, result, refine. You're not blindly believing what someone told you. You're actively testing what works for you in your reality with your frequency on your timeline, and over time, you build unshakable trust in your personal interpretations because they've been proven through experience, through results, through reality, responding to your frequency. Fifth protocol. Notice when numbers stop and what that means. If you've been seeing 222 every day for weeks and suddenly it stops, don't panic. Ask yourself, what changed? In my frequency, in my life, in my situation, what did 222 represent for me? Balance, partnership, duality. Have I achieved that balance? Have I made the decision between two paths? Often, numbers stop because you've completed what they were confirming. You were seeking balance. 222 appeared as confirmation. You're on the path to balance. Now you've achieved it. You don't need confirmation anymore. The number fades because its purpose is complete. This is integration. This is mastery. This is evolution. Or numbers stop because you're ready for a new frequency, a new level, a new code. You've been seeing 333 for months. It stops. Then you start seeing 555. You've moved from creative expression phase into change and transformation phase. The numbers reflect your frequency, evolution. This is progress, not abandonment. Sixth protocol, reclaim your power from the angel number industry. I'm not saying don't read about numbers, don't learn numerology, don't study sacred geometry. Learn everything you can, but use it as reference, not as authority, as inspiration, not as instruction, as starting point, not as final word. When you read that 111 means new beginnings, ask yourself, does that resonate with my experience of this number? Does that match what's happening when I See it? If yes, great, use that as framework. If no, trust yourself more than the book, more than the website, more than the authority. Your consciousness is more intelligent than any external source. Your subconscious knows more about you than any spiritual teacher. Your frequency creates more accurate synchronicity than any generic interpretation could provide. You are the authority on your reality, not angels, not guides, not experts. This doesn't mean reject all guidance. It means filter all guidance through your own knowing, through your own experience, through your own testing. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Build your own system, your own language, your own relationship with numbers, with synchronicity, with reality itself, because that's what this is really about. Not numbers, not angels, not messages, but you learning to trust your own consciousness, your own frequency, your own ability to create synchronicity, to collapse timelines, to navigate reality through observation, through frequency, through embodiment. The numbers are just training wheels until you learn to trust yourself. Now let's talk about the connection between frequency and specific numbers, because this is where it gets really interesting. Each number doesn't just have meaning, it has actual vibrational frequency that you can measure, that you can feel, that your electromagnetic field responds to when you match frequency with a number. Pythagoras understood this 2,500 years ago. He discovered that musical notes correspond to mathematical ratios, that harmony is numerical, that beauty is mathematical, that the universe speaks in numbers, not as symbols, but as actual frequencies that create reality at fundamental levels. Modern physics confirms this. Everything vibrates at specific frequencies. Atoms, molecules, cells, thoughts, emotions, even numbers themselves carry frequency signatures. One vibrates at the frequency of unity, of singularity, of focused intention. Two vibrates at the frequency of polarity, of balance, of relationship between opposites. Three carries the frequency of trinity, of creation through combination of thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Four resonates with stability, with foundation, with the four elements, four directions, four seasons, five pulses, with change, with transformation, with the five senses experiencing physical reality in constant flux. When you see 111, you're not just seeing a pattern, you're encountering a frequency transmission. Your electromagnetic field detects the number. Your consciousness recognizes the pattern, and your entire system begins in training to the frequency of 1. This happens automatically below conscious awareness, but you can feel it if you pay attention. This is why you feel different after seeing certain numbers, not because angels touched you, but because your frequency shifted to match the numerical frequency you observed, and that shift changes what you collapse into experience, what opportunities you notice, what decisions become clear, what timeline you align with. Let me give you a practical example of how this works in real life. You're stuck between two job offers, can't decide. Both seem equal, both have pros and cons. You're paralyzed by indecision. Then you start seeing 222 everywhere: clock, receipt, license plate, address, number. Most people would search angel number 222, find, trust the process, divine timing, balance, and feel temporarily comforted, but no closer to actual decision because the interpretation is too vague, too generic, doesn't give actionable guidance. But if you understand the mechanism, 222 is your consciousness communicating that you're in duality, in choice, point in timeline, split. The number isn't telling you what to choose. It's confirming you're at a moment where choice matters, where the timeline you select will determine your reality for months or years to come. So instead of searching for meaning, you sit with the feeling of 222. You feel into the frequency of two, of duality, of balance, of partnership. And you ask your consciousness, which job feels like balance, which feels like partnership, which feels like the two coming together in harmony, not conflict. And suddenly, not through logic, through feeling, through frequency, through your electromagnetic field, recognizing which option matches your current frequency, which timeline you're already collapsing into, which reality your higher consciousness has already selected. The 222 was confirmation that you're at choice point and guidance to feel into balance rather than thinking into analysis. This is how you use numbers practically, not as vague, spiritual platitudes, but as actual frequency guidance for real decisions in real life, creating real results that you can measure, track, verify through experience. Another example, you're about to launch something new, business, project, creative, work, relationship. You're excited, but also terrified, and you keep seeing 111. Most people read new beginnings, angels support you, and feel good for a moment, but the fear returns. But if you understand frequency, 111 is your system telling you you're in initiation frequency, that your electromagnetic field has already shifted to the frequency of new beginnings, that the timeline where you launch this thing is already collapsing into form. The 111 isn't permission from angels. It's confirmation from your own consciousness that you're already on that timeline. So you don't need to overcome fear. You need to recognize you're already past the decision point. Your frequency already shifted. The timeline already collapsed. The fear is just old programming catching up to where your consciousness already is. The 111 confirms this, validates this, empowers this. Not as external message, but as internal knowing. Now let's address the controversial part that I promised at the beginning. The angel number industry is profiting from keeping you dependent on external interpretation, books, courses, readings, apps, websites, all telling you what your numbers mean, all keeping you in receiver mode, in passive mode, in disempowered mode. I'm not saying these resources are evil. I'm saying they're incomplete. They give you starting points, but they keep you from the finish line, which is trusting yourself, more than any external authority. The finish line is knowing that you create your synchronicities, that your consciousness generates the patterns, that your frequency determines what numbers appear. The angel number narrative keeps you looking outside for answers that only exist inside. It keeps you asking, what do the angels want me to know? Instead of, what is my consciousness communicating to me? It keeps you searching for validation from higher beings instead of trusting your own higher self. And this isn't accidental, this is business model. If you learn to decode your own numbers, you don't need the books, the courses, the readings. You become self-sufficient, self-trusting, self-empowered, and that's not good for business. That's great for you, but not for the industry that profits from your dependence. So I'm giving you permission to graduate from angel numbers, not to stop seeing patterns, but to stop outsourcing interpretation, not to reject numerology, but to create your own system, not to dismiss angels, but to recognize you're interfacing with your own consciousness through quantum mechanics, not divine intervention. This is empowerment. This is sovereignty. This is taking back your creative power from systems that profit from you not having it. And once you do this, once you trust your own interpretations more than any website, you'll never go back, because your accuracy will be undeniable, your results will be measurable, your trust will be unshakable. Let me be clear. I'm not against spiritual teachers. I'm not against learning from others. I'm against giving your power away to anyone who tells you they know your reality better than you do. Learn from everyone. Trust yourself more. Use all resources as reference. Never as authority. You are the authority on your life, period. Now let's talk about what happens when you fully integrate this understanding, when you stop seeing numbers as messages from outside and start seeing them as confirmations from inside. Your entire relationship with reality shifts. You move from passive receiver to active creator, from dependent seeker to sovereign knower. You see, 333, and you don't think. What do the angels want you think? I'm in creative frequency right now. What am I creating with this frequency? What timeline am I collapsing with this observation? What reality am I generating through this synchronicity? You're not waiting for guidance. You're recognizing your own creative power in action. You see, 555, and you don't think change is coming. You think, I'm broadcasting change frequency. What transformation am I initiating? What old pattern am I releasing? What new timeline am I shifting into? You're not preparing for change that's happening to you. You're recognizing change that's happening through you. This is the shift from victim consciousness to creator consciousness, from waiting for reality to happen to you, to recognizing reality is happening through you. The numbers aren't predicting your future, they're confirming your frequency, and your frequency is creating your future through quantum collapse, through observation, through embodiment. So let's integrate everything. You now understand why the angel number narrative is incomplete. It's not wrong. It's just disempowering. It puts the power outside of you when the power is actually inside. You now understand what's really happening when you see repeating numbers. Your res filtering for what you've programmed as important, your consciousness, creating synchronicity. Through quantum collapse, your subconscious, using numbers as symbolic language, you now understand the three mechanisms working together: pattern recognition, quantum mechanics, and personal symbolism. You now understand that numbers have frequency, that you match frequency with numbers through your electromagnetic field, and that matching frequency shifts what you collapse into experience. You now understand how to decode your personal symbolic language through tracking, through feeling, through testing, through trusting yourself more than any external authority, and you understand the connection to everything we've covered in this series. Day 1, you learned consciousness creates reality through observation. The numbers you see are proof of that, confirmation that your observation is collapsing specific patterns into your experience. Day 2, you learned about 3 a.m. activations, pineal gland downloads. The numbers you see after those downloads are confirmation that the guidance was real, was accurate, was aligned with your highest timeline. And now, day 3, you've learned that you're not receiving messages from outside. You're creating synchronicity from inside through frequency, through observation, through quantum mechanics that makes you conscious, and consciousness is what we're actually talking about in this entire series. Not manifestation, not spirituality, consciousness creating reality at quantum levels. Here's what happens next. You stop searching angel number meanings. You start tracking your own patterns. You keep a journal of when numbers appear, what's happening, how you feel, what happens after, and you build your personal symbolic dictionary that's more accurate than any website could ever be. You stop giving your power away to external authorities. You start trusting your own consciousness, your own frequency, your own ability to decode reality through direct experience, not through someone else's interpretation of what your consciousness is communicating to you. And your reality starts shifting faster, more precisely, more aligned with what you actually want, because you're working with accurate information from your subconscious, not generic platitudes from the internet. You're following guidance that's specific to your timeline, your frequency, your highest good. Before we close, I need you to do something right now. Leave a comment below. Type "I see the patterns now," not "I see the angels," not "I receive the messages," but "I see the patterns now." Because that's what this is: pattern recognition, quantum mechanics, consciousness creating synchronicity. And once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. And then tell me in the comments, which number do you see most? 111, 222, 333, 444, 555. Tell me, and I'll know what frequency you're broadcasting, what timeline you're collapsing into, what phase of evolution you're in right now. If you've made it this far, you're ready for what comes next. Most people will never question the angel number narrative, will never learn to decode their own reality, will never take back their power from external authorities. They'll keep searching for meaning outside themselves, missing the fact that they're the ones creating the meaning all along. But you're not most people. You're here because you're ready to become sovereign in your own reality, And the next video in this series takes this even deeper. It's about the mirror protocol. What you see in the mirror isn't always what's real. Your reflection changes based on your frequency, and most people never notice that video will appear on your screen in a moment. But before you click, take a breath. Feel what shifted in you during this video. You're different now than when you started. You've reclaimed something that was always yours. The power to decode your own reality, to trust your own consciousness, to create your own synchronicity tonight, tomorrow, this week. When you see repeating numbers, and you will, don't search what they mean. Feel what they mean. Track when they appear. Test your interpretations. Build your own language. Trust yourself more than any website, any book, any authority. Because you are the authority on your reality. Always have been, always will be. I'll see you in the next one. Keep observing. Keep creating. Keep decoding the reality that's yours to shape.